What is going on, everyone? Welcome to ThursdAI. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases. Today joins me in this very cool, very quick setup studio, Swyx, co-founder of AI Engineer, the conference that becomes like a huge thing that we're going to talk about, and we're live streaming from right now. And my friend, what's up, Swyx?
What's up?
So good. We also have on the side, we have Roman. Roman, say hi to the folks as well. And folks, in just a few moments, we'll have Yam as our live correspondent from the AI Engineer hallway track, let's say. So this is a very special episode of ThursdAI. This week is going to be very cool. Welcome, everyone. As we get started a little bit, today's episode is going to be a little bit more special. We have some AI news to talk to you about. We may have some breaking news, but if you, as always, if you're joining the ThursdAI crew, you know how this works. We're live on YouTube, we're live on X, we're live everywhere. For this first time, we're also live via your stream as well. So welcome to your audience.
Yeah, I had no idea how that works. Today I learned that you can full stream from StreamYard. She was actually very impressive.
Yeah, StreamYard is dope. And we will ask you as well, because this week has been hectic and we've been running on conference as well. If anything breaks that you guys know of, like breaking news, if anything that you liked in the AI world and we haven't covered yet, please let us know in the comments on YouTube. We can even answer it as well. So with it, I think that we can get started. It's just like a brief interview. Swyx, it's been a while since I've been on the podcast, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it was the last time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Sometimes I listen in live, but mostly you start too early for me.
Yes, but now that it's your conference, you have to wake up early to set up things. So live at the Engineer, we're on the 30th floor. It's beautiful out here in San Francisco. You can see this behind Roman's. Actually, let me add Roman as well. You can see a little bit of a corner of San Francisco behind Roman. And yeah, Swyx, we'll also hear. We'll talk about the Engineer probably more at length. How is it going? What was yesterday was like day one of the talks before this workshop. How are you feeling about the state of things right now?
State of things are pretty good. I think that our main stress was handling 3,000 people in person.
3,000 people sold out completely.
Yeah, and the other thing was there's a bunch of, most people just know about the Wi-Fi issues, but there's a lot of things that people don't know, which is the job, right? They just set up, make the other stuff disappear. But for example, there have been protests in Seattle or Chicago with some major AI figures in recent months. And one of the things that we had a little bit of contingency for, but fortunately it didn't happen, was...
Wait, people who don't like AI protesting against AI conferences?
Specific people in their work.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, so if you watch the Microsoft Build keynote, they cut most of it out, but Satya was interrupted a few times by protesters. And yeah, so they happened in one of their other events, and we have a very visible event where we started to actually need 6 to 7 security people walking around and actual police that are on site, and we had contingencies if there was protests. Also coming in.
So I saw police assassins screaming in the lobby, but that was just San Francisco. I don't think it was AI related at all.
No, yeah. Anyway, I think it's a risk because I think we always want to be in the city because this is where everything is happening.
Yep.
But it is way more expensive to do things in the city, and logistically, like a lot of people cannot park here, that kind of stuff. But like now, there's risk that I never thought I would have to worry about. Okay. Let's just put it that.
So let's put it in context for folks who haven't or like maybe joined any of AI Engineers. This has been running for 3 years now.
Yeah.
The first one was Hotel Nikos Tower, like very close. And Merit Marquis is like a big hotel in downtown of San Francisco, like in the middle. Sold out for 3,000 AI engineers. This is crazy. We're going to talk, Yam is running to the floor, so we're going to talk with a few folks just like attending. It's going to be very interesting to bring them up.
Oh, is he streaming live?
A live correspondent.
Why is not a camera?
Yeah, he's running around right now. Yam, are you already on the floor? Let's add Yam.
Hi, good morning. Morning, everyone, from the floor of AI Engineer. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well. Coming through.
Great. People are starting to come. People are starting to come. We have a keynote starting in, I think, 20 minutes. And the audience starting to come. The amount of people is crazy in the conference. It's just crazy, especially compared to last year and the year before.
Hey, Yam, can you stand for a second by that logo?
Sure.
Let's interview you from the floor. So, folks, Yam is our live correspondent on the floor of the Marriott Marquis, bottom layer, the Grand Suites. Did you have? Oh, let's go. Yeah. And for folks who are actually tuning in, that was Windows Photographer. Yam, give us a little bit of a feel of the energy. Folks, we're streaming this for those of you who can't make it in San Francisco, who can park here downtown, or for folks who didn't fly out, for you to know how this is. So there's going to be a little bit of Wi-Fi issues, but Yam's going to walk around and you do what he wants. And I think it's going to be great. Yam, we're going to grab you in minutes.
No problem.
I can define.
Sure. Just want to show you
Show us.
beyond people. We didn't even start yet. Oh, one moment.
Yeah, this is the bottom floor and
panel.
This is all 3,000 people is a long time, and all of them know who you are.
Really? This new escape.
Yeah. You think that this is the trajectory because you bought a leather jacket.
Yeah.
Greg Brockman has a leather jacket. Jensen has a leather jacket. I'm just saying the trajectory is clear as far as I'm sitting.
Although to be clear, honestly, this one is my girlfriend's suggestion.
Oh. Great suggestion. I really liked it. Yeah, we're gonna grab you once you find a person. Just flag us. Meanwhile, we're on AI news as well. Roman, let me add you up. We're in the AI news stream. Swyx, there's a few controversial topics that's been going around the conference as well. Something windsurf and topic related. There's definitely something we want to talk about. But also, OpenAI has released a bunch of new things, and we would love to also discuss them. So, folks, the folks who usually tune in, we have this TLDR in the beginning. We tell you everything that happened. It's hard to tell you everything that happened once we've been running around the conference, but a few things have happened, and we definitely want to cover at least the major labs things. So, I think we can start with OpenAI, and I think the main things that I saw from OpenAI this week was they announced a bunch of features for the teams and enterprise and things like this. And one of the main things that I particularly liked is they're gonna be able to, as a ChatGPT user, ChatGPT is gonna listen in on your Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And that I think is like super cool, specifically from the perspective of there's multiple companies that kind of do this, and they then rely on ChatGPT. And OpenAI moves into the category of we're announcing something, we're killing like 3 startups.
They did a lot of things about kind of enterprise and EDU kinds of offerings in terms of ChatGPT specifically.
Yeah.
The one I'm more interested in is the one with Codex for Plus users. Just the idea of inserting themselves into that software development lifecycle and more people trying out how it feels to like assign tickets to this kind of agent here.
So quickly, just adding the piece of news that you've added. In addition to the features, we're going to talk about connectors to Box, to Gmail. There's a bunch of stuff. Also decided to open up Codex, the coding agent, let's say, that you actually talked with Greg Brockman about yesterday on stage. So we should cover this as well. Codex is now open to the Plus
Pro.
Yes. And I saw a stat that was crazy. I think 111,000 PRs was open in the 24 hours that was available for the Plus members on GitHub. Because people track this thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
That's compared to like about 20,000 for what was that other one?
we have Jules from Google. We have Codex from OpenAI. We have Debit. I think that was the comparison chart. OpenAI is absolutely like bringing the coding thing to the masses. And that's dope. And he also chatted with Greg Brockman yesterday on stage, which is super cool. People can tune in. It's going to be recorded. It was live streamed. And he talked about Codex as well. He went out of his way to tell you that it's not his baby-ish. So like a lot of people talk about this. Yeah. How's the chat with Greg generally?
Like lifetime wish list. I think we've been wanting to have him at AI Dinner for 2 years, and we made the schedules work. I think it's always interesting that there's the delta between why we want him, because I think he's a co-founder of OpenAI and himself a very impressive engineer that transitioned from normal software engineering into AI. So I think he's a role model for a lot of other people out there. But then why does he want to do it?
Yeah.
And that's always an interesting question because he can speak anywhere, he can speak anytime.
Sure.
What is it for him to come here? And I think really he's figurehead, the official representation and endorsement of all the other work that the other OpenAI folks are doing. So we actually have a very strong OpenAI presence here, together with the other big labs as well. OpenAI did 2 workshops on Wednesday.
Is one of them, right?
Yeah, Elon and Dominic. And then they have 2 talks today as well. Yeah, it's really has been great working with them. And I think I find that big lab heads, Jeff Dean is like this as well.
Yeah.
If you work well with their team, then they'll come and support their team.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's great to see OpenAI's presence here. Absolutely. They don't have a booth or anything, but they're here.
Offer.
Oh, yeah?
They don't need it.
I remember Codex as a standalone thing. You remember a long time ago when Greg presented? Way before ChatGPT.
It's actually Fuad was speaking today.
Fuad as well.
Yeah, Fuad. It was Fuad and Roman on the original CLI.
Bro, wasn't Fuad at some point a person that in one of your dinners was making like a very good desserts?
He's the unofficial dessert chef for OpenAI.
That's amazing. All right, so Codex. We're gonna talk about Codex as well. I've seen these stats. Like I probably can pull them up right now. Somebody took and did a comparison between Codex and then Jules from Google as well, and Devin. Cloud Code is not there because I don't think it's easy to get Cloud Code information, and Codex by far is a significant kind of PR closing margin. So we're gonna pull up the.
I don't think those numbers reflect how good Claude or Codex or Jules or whatever, like how good they are relative to one another.
Yeah.
Some of that is excitement. To me, it just shows that people are interested in doing software development in this new way. And that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Roman, have you tried any of them?
I have definitely used Claude Code, and I have set up lots of different flows to work with Codex or with other kinds of things. Actually opened my mind in some of the workshops that we saw yesterday with Microsoft's software development lifecycle. You just assign issues to the GitHub Copilot agent, and then you can get pull requests, can merge things in, kick off asynchronous tasks. So just like that whole process feels a lot more like what I would do as a sort of tech lead. I would break up the work, I would divvy it up according to deliverable chunks, and then assign it to engineers. And so that reflects how I would expect work to work, especially if I want to scale up. So that's one of the reasons why I'm excited.
All right, yeah. It looks like you came to the main stage. There's a little bit of a Wi-Fi thing, but you guys can see the main stage is going to go live. We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Here, setting up. Audience is now entering the main hall for the keynote of today, starting in 10 minutes.
10 minutes. The room was packed yesterday.
Yeah.
How big is the main room? Do you know approximately?
I think I told 100 people.
1,300 people. It was standing room only. I was standing like behind when you were with Greg Bachman, and before this, Kevin, who from Windsurf? Yeah. Kevin's a great dude. Kevin, if you're listening to this, please join us on DM me. I'll grab you up here. But Kevin's a great dude from Windsurf, which may or may not also be part of OpenAI. We don't know. Nothing was official, but there was some announcement. And Kevin had a standing room, and then you and Greg for 40 minutes. I believe you basically did a podcast with Greg on stage. 1,300 people sitting down, and I think just standing room. There's a lot of people behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, Greg actually confirmed that he'll be joining us on InSpace afterwards. But it wasn't a podcast in a sense that I wasn't there for me. So I couldn't ask questions and go on tangents if I wanted.
Yeah.
I had to follow a script that we
Pre-approved,
somewhat. They were actually very flexible and open with me. But it was just more like I represent a lot of people.
Yes.
So I cannot, only serve my interests. Like I have to think about other people and like the questions they submitted, what they really want to hear from it.
And this is different from Latent Space. Latent Space you could just do.
Yeah, it's just me and Alessio, like personal indulgence, right?
Folks, I don't believe anybody of the 1,500 people who tunes in right now doesn't know about Latent Space, but in case they don't, Swyx, besides running AI Engineer, this is now the second conference this year. Maybe it's going to be another one this year. We talked about this. So this is the World's Fair. 3,000 people sold out. Besides running AI News, the daily newsletter that recaps all of the news in the world, we're going to add him in once he grabs someone. Swyx and Alessio are hosts of one of the top AI podcasts in the world called Latent Space. It's been an incredible podcast. It's been great to see you guys rise. Lex Friedman recently gave you guys a shout out.
He's here. He has a ticket.
Lex has a ticket?
He has a ticket.
Lex, come up, talk to us.
No, I know. He said he'll maybe come, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, right?
Yeah.
But I think all those is really great. And to us, we're trying to improve the quality of the guests and understand what the audience wants.
Yep.
Stay tuned. We have a really good episode with Anthropic on mechanistic interpretability, circuit tracing as biology and language models guy. And then after that will be Noam Brown for OpenAI.
Oh, Noam Brown. Yes, Noam Brown is the guy that like worked hard on reasoning.
Yeah, I think he's basically like the research lead on all series.
All series with that's amazing. Yam, are you waiting for the keynote to start to show us what's going on? Where are you?
Oh yeah, right here on the floor, waiting for the keynote to start.
Yeah.
Today is all about Gemini. It's energy, man. It's energy. It's every single day. All the rooms are packed. Just like you said yesterday, the keynote is a huge hall. I don't know if you can see it in the image, but it's a huge hall. And we got to a point where you can just stand. And there's so many people here. And no one is going out of the conference early or anything. Like the last talk yesterday at 5 p.m. was just packed the entire room.
Yeah, we're gonna, folks. We're gonna just zigzag between news, talking about the AI conference.
Yeah.
I will say, Swyx, for folks who are listening who don't know this, AI engineer is very special to me specifically, and you probably know this. I've talked to folks about this. I moved away from a career in software development, and I felt a pulling to go into content creation, podcasting, etc. And you were the first one who gave me a break. I remember we talked about the engineer. We were chatting before. And you got me a media ticket to come out to the engineer in 2023. It was October. And I was like running around with the media badge, interviewing people. I was actually like someone doing interviews for you guys as well. I remember this because like on the way to the engineer, this was before Weights and Biases folks. And I went on an Uber into San Francisco and the guy asked me like, hey, what do you do? I told him I have a podcast. It was like a first thing because of the validation you gave me in the engineer. So I really appreciate all your support since then.
Yeah, but like also by then it was very obvious that you were going to do a really good job, and it wasn't that much of a risk, man.
I hear that. I really appreciate it. And since then, we've been covering AI on ThursdAI every time it happened. I don't think I've missed one. But I heard rumors that this is becoming a bigger thing still.
Yeah, you want to go to Europe?
Yeah, I will come to Europe. I'm Mike. I haven't been in Europe in a while, especially if we can cover this.
I mean, we do eventually want to cover and then bring the engineer to the rest of the world.
Yep.
And so this kind of descending order of GDP, basically.
Descending order of GDP. Speaking of descending order of GDP, the last time we hung out with the engineer was in New York. New York was it was a engineer summit.
A summit also.
Yeah. Could you tell us about the difference?
Summit is single track, apply only. So people have to apply to even attend.
Who reviews them? An AI agent that reviews it? Or do you...
It's basically us, me and like friends, basically. But I also have like people, like we have a grading system, so it's not that hard. And then World's Fair is just open to everyone, and we're trying to be inclusive and comprehensive as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Like last year we had 9 tracks, this year 18.
tracks.
Yeah, and it's 11 enough. Like I wanted to do a computer use agent. I wanted to do AI crypto. I wanted healthcare, finance, education, and like these, we just didn't have space.
Yeah,
The demand is just huge.
Yeah,
demand is crazy.
there's a lot of demand for AI bio as well. So what I focus here are these 18 things are people that I have the network to make sure that I have good keynotes for every one of them. And we had enough submissions that like I felt like we could make a compelling track. But really a track is 7 talks.
Yeah.
And there's more than 7 interesting people
sure.
in every day. So really it's more about like just get everybody in one place. Like the tracks are like for them together. If you are the MCP person, like if you made your whole career MCP or you're betting on MCP, you go to the MCP track, not even to speak, just to meet everyone else in MCP.
Yeah. I think one of the huge things for me been since joining AI engineer as a participant, as a media person who covers, meeting the folks that were pre-selected to give talks as well. It's like a huge thing. Folks, if you're into this, if you're like you made your whole career MCP, you want to get to the point where you talk at the MCP track, because then you get to meet other people.
I'm trying to make the point that the talks are they're short, and like everyone, obviously the Anthropic team has a lot to say, but so do the audience. And it's more about getting the community one space so that they can
The hallway track.
Yeah.
hallway track. This is the first time we're doing attendee talks. Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
What else about this?
We literally call it the hallway track.
Okay.
It is not stand around and talk. You actually have presentations. We give you
Oh, at the end of the hall, there's a little stage and everything.
it's recorded, it goes on YouTube, like the whole thing. And I think basically that is the best part of focus on the more community-oriented conferences that we've been missing so far.
You made the hallway track, the actual track right here.
Real track, and people submit, the top voted ones get selected.
But besides the fact that you made it into an actual thing, the hallway track, as you like affectionately call this, is just like dividing people in the hallway between the talks.
Yeah. So one of my favorite highlights so far was Jason Liu came up to me. Jason's pretty skeptical guy sometimes, and he was like, yeah, I think that this year the conversation is like very different. Like people actually building, and it's not too many salespeople here. They're not trying to sell me their starter.
We heard, Roman, you remember this yesterday? We talked with Ahmed from Langbase Swyx. We talked with Ahmed, and do you remember the actual thing he said?
He was comparing this conference to some other unnamed conferences and how.
Oh yeah, we're the enemy, HumanX. So HumanX came out of nowhere and like it's a very splashy big conference.
Really, I haven't even heard. I don't know who those are.
If you're if you're a sponsor, you have to decide who you're going to support.
Yeah.
If you're a speaker, you're like, I only can go to so many conferences a year. Who are you going to support? Are you going to cross stream the official stream or from Yam's?
I could cross the official stream. Yeah, I could do that, folks. I think we have Logan coming up.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. My name's Logan. I do developer stuff at DeepMind, and I'm excited to talk about Gemini stuff. We'll do some fun announcement stuff. We'll talk about recapping a year of progress in Gemini, and then we'll talk about what's coming next across the model side, across the Gemini app side, and also across, of course, the developer platform. The fun stuff, which is we announced a new Gemini model today. So we haven't officially announced it. New Gemini model. This is hopefully the final update to 2.5 Pro. Gemini 2.5 Pro is awesome. It's super powerful. Bunch of increases across benchmarks people care about. It's SOTA on AIDR and it's SOTA on HLE and some other benchmarks. I think it closes the gap on a bunch of the stuff that folks gave us feedback on from the previous versions of the model. So hopefully it has great performance across the board. It also, I think, is setting the stage for the future of Gemini. Let's talk about a year of Gemini progress. I think this has been the craziest thing. I don't know if folks tuned in to Google I/O, but Nart showed this slide on stage, which I think was a great reminder for me of just how much it feels like 10 years of Gemini stuff packed into the last 12 months, which has been awesome. And it's actually interesting to see as well, just to opine on one of the points. So you see the alpha proof and alpha geometry and a bunch of stuff that we did with custom models in those areas, actually improving the performance of our models for those domains. And Jack will talk about that in a little bit, which I'm super excited about. The other thing is just not just the pace of innovation, but the pace of adoption. So I think Sundar also showed this slide, which was a 50x increase in the amount of AI inference that's being processed through Google servers from 1 year ago to, and I think that is it is just remarkable to see the amount of increase in demand for Gemini models and for also from the external developer ecosystem. So it's been wonderful to see that happen. I think the other question, and I think this is talked about a little bit, which is what got us to this point. I think one of the critical pieces, and it's not super fun, but is worth thinking about for folks who are building companies here, is like an organizational thing, truthfully. I think you bring together, Google historically had lots of different teams doing lots of different AI research, and in late 2023, Google brought a bunch of those teams together and charted this new direction for the DeepMind team to not only just do theoretical foundational research, but also to build models and deliver them to the rest of Google and also the external world. And then we took the second step of that journey earlier this year, which was actually bringing the product teams into DeepMind. So now DeepMind creates the models, does the research, but then also builds products and delivers those to the world. And we have the Gemini app, which is our consumer product, and then we have the developer side of that with the Gemini API. And this has been, like, personally for me, super fun to get to collaborate with our research team and help actually be on the frontier with them and bring new models and capabilities to the world. I think this is the collaboration that works incredibly well. Yeah, and we ship lots of stuff. I think this is the most fun part, is there's so much stuff, so much innovation happening inside of Google. It's incredible to get to bring that to the world and bring that to developers. And I think we're actually very early in that journey, and as we'll see in a couple of minutes.
I don't see it often.
I don't know if folks have played around with VO or not, but it's also been just incredible to see the reception to VO. It's burning all the TPUs down, which has been incredible to see. Lots of demand, lots of interest on the VO front. So hopefully folks get a chance to play around. It's available in the Gemini app right now. All right, so let's talk about what next. This is the fun stuff. I think Gemini app piece is interesting just because it's a fun product and it's cool to think about. And also I think for folks building stuff, it's interesting to hear what our strategy is from the app perspective. But the Gemini app is trying to be this universal assistant. I think what that means in practice is I'm sure people don't think about this all the time, but I think a lot about what Google's products do and how we show up in the world. And one of the interesting observations I had was that if you think about what was the thing that brought people, individuals, through all of Google's products historically. The thing that comes to mind is like your Google account, which wasn't super stateful. You would sign into lots of different Google products with your Google account, but that didn't really do anything other than just you signed into that individual product. I think now we're seeing with Gemini that it's actually this thread that unifies all of Google, and I think the future for Google is going to look a lot like Gemini is this sort of thread that brings all of our stuff together, which is really interesting. And then hitting on all the trends, which I'm sure folks are also excited about building. I think the one that I'm most excited about is proactivity. I think most AI products today are still very like, you have to go and do all the work for the user. And I think this proactive next step of AI systems and models coming into play is going to be awesome to see. Yeah, and the team is moving super fast. If you have complaints, please do not tag me on Twitter. Please tag Josh. He will make it happen. Josh is incredible. The Gemini app team is amazing. He's pushing the team super hard, so it's incredible to see all the progress. But he is the person who can make stuff happen on the Gemini app side, not me. So please tag him. From a model perspective, like there's so much. When Gemini was originally created, it was built to be a single multimodal model to do audio, image, video, et cetera. We've made a lot of progress on that. At I/O this year, we announced native audio capabilities in Gemini. There's TTS, there's audio. You can talk to the model. It sounds super natural, which is awesome. It's powering the Astra experience. It's powering Gemini Live. So I think we're going to get towards that omnimodal model, which is awesome. We have VO, which is SOTA across a bunch of stuff. So hopefully we'll get video into the mainline Gemini model. If folks saw some of our early experiments with diffusion, which means you can get like crazy levels of tokens per second, really interesting. That's definitely a research exploration area, and it's not mainline yet. So it'll be cool to see that come. The agentic by default thread, I think, is something that I've been thinking a lot about recently, which is like historically, for me as a developer, I've thought about models just as this thing that gives me tokens in and out, and then there was lots of scaffolding in the ecosystem to allow me to build with those models. I think it's becoming very clear to me that the models are becoming more systematic themselves, like they're doing more and more, and I think the reasoning step is this really interesting place in which a lot of that's going to happen. Jack's going to talk about the scaling up of reasoning. I do think it'll be interesting to see how much of the scaffolding work that's happened in the past ends up just being a part of that reasoning step and what that means for people who are building products and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see. We'll also have more small models soon, which I'm excited about, and big models. People want large models, which I know. So I'm excited about that. And then the last one is continuing to push the frontier on infinite context. I think the current model paradigm doesn't work for infinite context. I think it's just like impossible to scale up. Attention doesn't work that way. So I think there'll be some new innovations to hopefully help let people continue to scale up the amount of context that they're bringing in. And then developer stuff. We have lots of things coming, which I'm excited about. I think I'll highlight maybe 3 that I think people are super excited about. Embeddings, I think we have, which is feels like early AI stuff, but I think is still super important. Embeddings power most people's applications using RAG. We have a Gemini embeddings model, which is state of the art, so excited to be rolling that out to developers more broadly in the next couple of weeks. The deep research API I'm super interested in. There's so many interesting products that are built around this sort of research tasks, and people love the consumer product, so we're finding ways to bring a bunch of that together into a bespoke deep research API, which will be awesome. And then VO3 and Imagine 4 in the API as well. So hopefully we'll see that very soon, and as we work to scale and make that possible from a developer platform side. I'll make one other quick comment, which is the AI Studio product positioning, which I also think is interesting. AI Studio, just to be very clear, is being built as a developer platform. So we'll move away from this consumer feel, move much more toward being a developer platform, which I'm personally very excited about because I think that's what developers want from us. So it'll be awesome to see that actually come to life with many new iterations of our developer experience. We'll keep making Gemini great for everyone. Thanks, and I appreciate it.
You're attending out to the engineer keynote, and hopefully folks got a chance to also see that. Logan has been killing it in Google since he joined. It's incredible. I remember Logan as the person in OpenAI that people talk about. Swyx, I'm assuming you as well. Logan was the guy in OpenAI for a while.
Yeah,
I know
was
Logan.
also the first guest on our podcast.
Latent space number one is Logan Kilpatrick.
Also, he made a very rare transition from developer relations, and I think more DevRel should do that. You know, because you know what people want, and then you can go and actually implement it.
Interesting, because he keeps doing developer relations. Maybe it's not his job, but he talks to developers. He is very public about stuff releases, and it feels like he got to a point where, okay, he will continue doing relations just by nature of him being out.
The very secret is you don't actually need the job title to do the job, and anyone who has developer expertise can do it. Some people just need to do it full time because you need a lot of time to work on the content and stuff.
Presentations, as we saw, the slides are just bullet points.
He's actually doing the work. That's what we want to feature.
Yep. Logan is great. And I no longer associate Logan with OpenAI. I don't even remember that part. He's been so embedded with the Gemini team, Gemini. It's been incredible. Speaking of developers, relations, people who that's not their main job, Josh Woodward that you mentioned. Yeah. Josh was the main guy behind Labs, Google Labs. And now Josh runs the whole Gemini.
Yeah, it's promoted.
Yeah, it's been moved and promoted.
Do you want to mention, actually, Logan will be joining us?
Logan, folks, you heard it here first.
I think, basically, Logan wants to come with Jack.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name's Jack. I'm a researcher at Google, and I'm the tech lead of thinking within Gemini. And I'm going to give a brief deep dive into thinking from the research perspective within Gemini. So Logan did a great job of kind of giving it an incredible overview of Gemini as a whole ecosystem, everything that's going on. I'm going to really be focusing on kind of what we're excited about in the reasoning space. With intelligence bottlenecks, the message of this section is really about progress. So progress has really been marked by identifying key bottlenecks towards intelligence and then solving them. Although these models are very powerful, they're still trained to respond immediately to requests. So in other words, in terms of a compute bottleneck, there is a constant amount of compute that they apply at test time to transition from your request or your question to the response or your answer. The bottleneck of test time compute, this is relevant to thinking. So when we talk about a fixed amount of test time compute, the test time compute is interesting to you because that's the compute that the model is spending on your particular problem, your particular question. And the way it actually mechanically works is you have some text in your request, it gets translated tokens, and then it's going to go through a language model. And at the transition from the request to its response, it's going to pass some computation up through a large language model, which will have some parallel computation for every layer, and it'll have some iterative computation across layers. So that computation is really where the model can apply its intelligence to your particular problem, and it's a fixed size. One solution, if you wanted a smarter model and more computation, is just to make the model larger. And then you can have more compute, and you can get a smarter response. However, it's still not really enough. Users might want to be able to think 1,000 or 1,000,000 times and have a very large dynamic range and a lot of compute for very hard or challenging or valuable tasks. And also, users might want to have a very dynamic application of test time compute. Less compute for simpler requests, more compute for harder requests, and have this process be very dynamic and instigated by the model. And that is what motivates thinking. So thinking in Gemini, mechanically, I'm sure almost everyone in this room is familiar with this general process where we will now have a model and we insert a thinking stage that the model can emit some additional text before it decides to emit a final answer. So going back to this notion of test time compute now, we've added an additional kind of loop of computation where the model can loop and perform additional test time compute during this thinking stage. And this loop can be potentially thousands or tens of thousands of iterations, which gives you tens of thousands more compute before it decides to commit to what its response will be. And also, because it's a loop, it's dynamic. So the model can learn how many iterations of this loop to apply before it decides to actually commit to its answer. We train this model to think, to use this kind of thinking stage via reinforcement learning. So when we pre-train Gemini, we then have a reinforcement learning stage where we train it to do many different tasks and we give it positive and negative rewards depending on whether or not it solves the task correctly or not. And this is essentially a very general training recipe, really. And it's remarkable it works, but the model is able to just get a very vague signal of what is correct and what is not correct, and to backpropagate this through this loop of thinking stage such that it can try and shape how it uses its thinking, computation, and thinking tokens in order to be more useful. In fact, we weren't really sure this would work. It wasn't clear how much structure we should put into something like a reasoning stage. And although I think probably many people here have now seen reasoning traces and played with these models, I'll just show you a historical artifact from one of the times we were trying to use reinforcement learning. We started to see cool emergent behavior. We were truly blown away when we saw the general recipe of reinforcement learning was creating all sorts of interesting emergent behavior, trying different ideas, self-correction. So it learns to break down the problem into various components, explore multiple solutions, draft fragments of code and build these up in a modular way, perform intermediate calculations and use tools, all under the umbrella of using more test-type compute to give you a smarter response. Okay, I've talked a bit about why we are interested in thinking in terms of the path to AGI and unblocking bottlenecks of intelligence, and just a little bit about mechanically what it is. Why is it interesting to developers? Obviously, the number one reason is we think this is driving more capable models, and it also stacks on top of our current paradigms of how we accelerate model progress. Thinking, we can accelerate this process by scaling the amount of test time compute, and we find that this can stack as a paradigm on top of pre-existing paradigms such as pre-training, where you can scale the amount of pre-training data and model size, and also post-training, where you can scale the quality and diversity of human feedback for many different types of tasks. And as a result, within Google, by investing in all of these and really accelerating all of them, we get the multiplicative effect. And why is this interesting to developers? And we have thinking budgets now launched in Flash and Pro in the 2.5 series. This allows you to have very granular choice of cost to performance, and also allows us to then push performance higher if your application requires it. We also now have announced at I/O, and we're launching to trusted testers, a notion of DeepThink. DeepThink is a very high budget mode, thinking budget mode built on top of 2.5 Pro. And its desired application is for things where you have a very hard problem and you're happy to essentially fire off the query and then have some asynchronous process that's running for a while, and you'll come back to arrive at a stronger solution. And its key idea is we leverage much deeper chains of thought and parallel chains of thought that can integrate with each other to produce better responses. We find this enhances model performance on very tough multimodal code math problems. An example would be USA Math Olympiad. This is a task that basically the state-of-the-art model in January was completely negligible performance. 2.5 Pro is now probably even better with the updated one today, but it's about a 50th percentile of all participants that participated in Math Olympiad. And with DeepThink, it goes up to 65 percentile. And the interesting thing about DeepThink is, as we continue to both improve the base model and improve the algorithmic ingredients that go into DeepThink, those two will stack together as well. With that said, thank you very much.
Yeah. We're back here. There we are. All right, folks. With over 3,000 people now tuned in to this live stream.
You get the numbers there, right?
Yeah, we got the numbers like running almost 2,000 folks.
You beat us.
Swyx, we had both Logan and Jack Ray. Jack runs.
Yeah, basically, where's the no shoes here?
Oh, which is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's sold up, man. We're gonna have to ask him a few questions.
We tried Noam as well. More than happy to have to host Jack, and obviously probably Jack can clearly about what they're doing. I think if Noam says anything, it's always subject to a lot of scrutiny.
Yep, definitely. Noam famously had been reacquired at Google after a stint at Character AI for some amount of billions of dollars. This acqui-hire trend has been going on recently.
Yeah, I call it executive hire.
Executive hire.
You hire the executives, but not the employees.
So we have Noam Shazir from Character. Same happened with Mustafa Suleiman from Inflection AI. Mustafa and Karen Simonian, I believe. There's also like a high-level executive that's down in Microsoft as well. And then recently, not an equi-hire, but like an equi-merger, basically, with Sam Altman and Johnny with I/O. So basically, I/O was integrated into OpenAI as well. Thoughts on I/O, by the way?
I
Any?
really hope it's a phone, because then they seem to not want to do a phone.
I don't think it's going to be a phone.
Yeah.
They want to step away from screens.
Okay, so what I've heard
Yeah.
is it's not a phone. It's not a pendant. or it's not a wearable.
Yeah.
It's another thing. And I'm like, how many things?
How many things?
Be? So basically, if it's not a wearable,
Yeah.
but it's a hardware object, that is confirmed. But you have to have it on you.
Yeah.
It's another phone, basically. Like there's no other ambiguity. Okay.
I don't think it's that. There's the guy who always knows the supply chain for iPhones, Min K something. Minchiko, yeah, he talked about the device with camera, with microphones, and looks a little bit like a round iPod. That's what he reported so far.
Yeah, so basically, that's what I fear. It's basically a totem that you carry around with you. There's a second thing in your pocket, right? But if why have a second thing in my pocket when I can just have my phone?
Yep.
And just give me OpenAI phone. Everyone wants OpenAI phone.
What's OpenAI phone?
Like,
You think OpenAI phone can get to iPhone quality?
sure, you have the money.
Yeah, this one.
They have the team now that works on the iPhone.
They had some of the team.
Taiwan supply chain will be more than happy to help.
All right, folks. If OpenAI wants to bring us a phone, but it's probably not going to be. It's only they actually publicly said they want to move away from screens. Folks, okay, we are waiting. Yam, are you with us? I want to interview a few folks from the hall. Yam, if you're still with us, we'd love to bring you up. Just grab a random person, and we want to hear their experience with the engine.
We would like to be interviewed to do a free with the conference.
Hey. I have a background in full stack engineering with JavaScript, but now I'm just building AI applications with either JavaScript or Python.
What's your name again? Sorry.
Cesar,
Cesar. Nice to meet you, Cesar. Where are you coming from? The engineer.
Mexico.
Oh, you're coming from Mexico. That's awesome. Yeah. International. World's Fair. That's what it's called. Yeah. So you're here with Alex Volkov from Waiting Glasses and Swyx, the organizer. Any Friday talks for you? What do you find the most exciting so far?
The amount of progress we have done with AI.
Did you take any workshops as well, or did you go only to talks? If you can recall one workshop that particularly stood out for you, which one?
There's one with OpenAI, speech Magoo. It was very insightful, and after that workshop, I think you gotta start using it more.
I got some really cool new APIs for real-time speech-to-speech.
Cesar, have you attended the engineer before? This is your first time?
No, first time here.
How did you hear about this? How did the information about the conference get to you?
I'm a fan of the Latent Space podcast.
Oh, that's
I think, actually, I want to thank Sean because I was working as a front-end engineer, and then when he coined the term of AI engineering, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to move into AI engineering, and here I am.
That's awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Swyx came up with the term AI engineer, and now folks are like switching careers as well. But Cesar, it's been it's awesome to interview you. We could hear and see you as well. We hope you enjoyed the rest of the conference. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you. Wait, I got another interview for you right now.
No, we can't see, but we can hear. Because the image is frozen, but we can hear folks, and we can.
You can't see.
It's very spotty. I think 3,000 people.
Who are we speaking to?
I'm Tanish.
Let's go. Folks, Tanish Abraham is a friend of the pod. Tanish, you've been on the pod before, right? And you know everyone.
Several times.
But for those who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I can introduce. I'm Tanish. I am the CEO of Sofont, a new startup building medical foundation models. I am the CEO of Sofont, and previously I was working in Stability AI, also working on medical AI and diffusion and language models. And I've been around in the AI community for some time. I remember meeting Alex at the Stability AI launches almost 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while that we've known each other and that I've been visiting the podcast. Yeah.
Tanish, not your first time at the engineer as well. We've hung out at the engineer. Were you just now on the keynote as well? And were you in the keynotes before? What stood out for you from the conference?
The keynotes, yeah. It's been quite great. I think it's been some really great keynotes. The Gemini one was fun to see. Logan just launched the new Gemini model right on stage. That was funny. And then some of the other keynotes too. There's the one by Simon Wilson. That was quite entertaining and interesting with the progress of the models over time with this benchmark. That was interesting. Yesterday, the one with Greg Brockman, that was really great. And great job to Swyx for a great interview. That was really, entertaining. Some great questions from Dylan, from Matt, from a few people. So that was really nice.
Yeah, and
we're all
also
having
we
a
had
good time.
the CEO of one of the bigger companies, like zoom in or
Yes,
whatever, like
yeah.
pre-recorded.
Yes.
So I told the AV team that it was like a call from Paris, and they were like, "Oh, it's a call." And I'm like, "No, guys, it's recorded."
It's recorded. Whose choice it was to speed up Jensen? Because Jensen's questions are like paragraph.
Yeah, me.
Yeah,
In for 5 to 10 seconds. He gave us 3 minutes.
yeah, of course.
And I have 40 minutes with Greg.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, there's no way I need to speed it up. But hopefully it will still understand.
Yeah, it was clear that what he wanted. Tanishk, how's the energy at the room? Like the Wi-Fi is not showing us all the excitement, but how's the energy in the whole track? Have you met new people? Have you met people you already know? Give us a little bit of a taste of like how it is on the floor of it.
Yeah, it's really electric energy here. Everyone is excited to be here. And yeah, the main keynote hall is completely full. The overflow room is also filling up pretty rapidly. So yeah, I think next year you guys definitely need a bigger venue. It's like you need a stadium at this point.
Got the money for
Fair enough. Yeah, there's a lot of people and having a great time here, and it's great to see a lot of familiar faces, but also new faces as well. People that interacted with on Twitter, meeting them here for the first time. First time I'm meeting Yam in person. It's great. A lot of people also coming up to me, recognizing me as well. And some of my other friends been hanging out with Alexa. A lot of people coming up to Alexa too. So it's just everyone is here from all around the world. Yeah, so it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Alrighty, Tanish, thank you so much. Yam, feel free to come up. Folks, conclude the live report from the stage. We have 2 new guests joining us live here. Just coming off of the stage, we have
fresh from the keynote stage.
Yeah, first from the keynote stage, we have Logan Kilpatrick and Jack Ray. Jack, nice to meet you. I think we haven't met before. Logan, do you print those for yourself? Because last time we saw you,
made.
They're all one of one.
One of one, right? You had AGI win in Google I.
Yeah, I had to fight to letter on.
Oh, really? It's got to be like
they don't want shirts
clean
with text on.
So
Big model smell. That's a statement if no one knows what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Actually,
someone said, is Big Model Smell your company? As I was walking around the conference, I was like, that would be kind of a weird name for a company, but
so I have joked about this, but I'm probably going to actually do it. I'm going to have a dinner club called High Taste Testers Club. Actually, I would love to just to kick it off, just because you're on this topic. Can we like what does Big Model Smell mean to both of you?
That's an incredible question.
I think, okay, it obviously, there's like a lot we don't capture with benchmarks. We're always advertising when we make a lot of progress on benchmarks, but there's like all this stuff that's missing. There is a lot of vibe testing. It has become synonymous with all of the kind of surprising capability you're getting from a lot of qualitative interaction that just isn't reflected. That's what it means.
Yeah.
yeah. I think the only other case where I've seen people use it is people have like small models that look really good on benchmarks, but then you like
they don't
actually
generalize
use the model and that you can feel that it's not a big model. So that's the only one.
How does one become a high-level tester? What differentiates folks who get this from folks who have no idea? I have folks asking me all the time what model to use. I have the response of it depends for your use case, and that's being like my default answer.
This high taste tester thing is just like everyone who has strong opinions, like finally getting rewarded for having arguments. You're delusionally wrong, but you have strong opinions, and now you're a high taste tester.
I do think there's something to be said for the people that are always looking for what is missing in models, and maybe a lot of people build up their own private eval set of prompts, and they really know what they're looking for, and maybe like none of the models are really hitting the nail on the head right now, but then as new generations come out and they actually see these kind of held out private evaluations, oh, there's something really happening here. I have a more sophisticated way of discerning model quality than everyone else. I'm a high taste tester. I think that's reasonable that people devote that energy, and it is quite useful for us because we're often just rapidly iterating on models, and we want to know what are we missing.
What's the biggest piece that's missing right now out of the list that probably you have feedback on and you have feedback on, Jack as well? What would you say people ask for the most right now? You've shipped like so much. It's incredible to run through the list of things.
I was plugging for Dolphin Gemma. It wasn't on your slides.
Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry. Dolphin Gemma is a good, but it's also impressive.
Yeah. What would you say one of the highest things that people still want? Like we still get so many capabilities from these models.
Yeah, I would say like very pragmatically, now that people are using more and more complex harnesses on top of these models, they want these models to use more and more tools. Very reliable and consistent tool use. Function calling is like a common just like pain point right now. I think we're making a lot of progress in this latest release of 2.5 Pro, but there's definitely work to be done. From my perspective, I often do segment though. There's like the loudest current requests are often very pragmatic things that are blocking people now. But I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but it just needs to be AGI. It needs to get completely more reliable, more intelligent, be able to solve more open-ended tasks. And the funny thing is, people don't really ask for more AGI. They ask for very concrete, short-term things.
Yeah. You also hinted that you said something spicy, like attention doesn't scale that way or something like that.
You have a better intuition, but my understanding, if you take the existing paradigm of,
I think, yeah, we just try and give people, this is the guarantee of like how much context the model can handle right now. We want it to feel like it's remembered absolutely everything in that 2 million context. And you could push it further, and maybe then you would start to see performance dropping off, and that would be underappreciated. So it's just a case of having the algorithmic breakthroughs such that we could push it much larger, and it feels like it's truly studied absolutely everything in that gigantic context. So there's algorithmic research on that. There's people working on it. But yeah, it does feel like we had this step change last year, and the quality is improving, but there's probably more step changes.
I think there's also a bunch of info. Every time when we actually look at putting context in production practically, it's like always the biggest headache is making it. That's like such a problem.
Would you say that more long context is the gateway to like personalization? You spoke about personalization for the Gemini app. You spoke like one Google that knows your emails, maybe your Drive, etc. We're going towards there. OpenAI now has all the memories that I've talked to, and it immediately unlock personalization because it remembers from past chats. Are we going to see more of this from Gemini? And do you think that long context is something that needs to unlock, or do we have enough for a good level that people feel, oh, this is my friend versus this is a tool?
My 2 cents of company, because I think it's just like prohibitive at, like if you were to use 2.5 and like do all that, like every single query costing an order of like $5.
Oh my God.
Well, it's just like not like no one would be able to afford that. Like maybe if you were very rich, you could afford that product, but like for the masses, that's not going to be possible.
I think I'm curious what you're like excited for personalization unlock for you. I think a lot of personalization goes beyond just knowing what you've done and knowing information about you. It might be more what you're expecting, what you like, or what the style of interaction is engaging for you.
I will tell you the thing that keeps me on ChatGPT, and I want more of it. And I think they just launched it listening to your Zoom meetings, for example. I think they launched it yesterday. We chatted about this on the podcast. Is not having to provide all of the context with every new query, like not having it be completely blank slate. And I actually know of folks who want both. Some folks want to approach these models as this is a tool and I need the cleanest context possible for the thing that I'm doing. I don't want to remember anything else I might have said about how I feel about that day, whatever. People just want the clean kind of blank slate, like incognito mode. But some people want, let's compare it to the browser thing. Some people want cookies. Some people want to be that thing that we're interacting with, that intelligence to keep the conversation. Like me and Logan, we met at Google I/O like last year, we met this year. We had some conversations. We now share mutual context that we can like tap on, and from that perspective, kind of relationships are building. I noticed this with GPT. I don't have it yet, I think, in Gemini, but I think that personalization of context switches it from a tool to more of a companion type relationship.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think we'll get there. The challenge is to have empathy for building that product. You're basically reinventing the brain, which is tough. Like your brain is biologically created to take the context that you and I had and pull it in real time. There's so much complexity actually that happened. I think especially as you scale over N sources across all of this, I think the thing that I haven't seen work, and I've been playing around with a bunch of new startups doing memory from a developer perspective, and I've been playing around with a bunch of them. I think the hard part is they don't sufficiently downweight the historical stuff. It'll be like, oh, because I emailed someone 7 years ago and I have no recollection that I emailed that person, somehow that's going to impact this query that I'm doing right now. And maybe somehow behind this, it really is impacting my brain some way, but I have no memory of this at all. So it is like that active versus passive. It's like a weird neuroscience problem to try to figure that out. To Jack, your point, I think personalization is this expectation mismatch problem where you're going to expect the model to work like your brain, which it's not going to in a lot of ways. Maybe you don't want it to work like your brain. You want something else.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are familiar with the Netflix Black Mirror episode on the entire history of you. Do you actually want to remember everything? Probably not. Probably there needs to be some kind of decay function or garbage of memories. I had a question that I asked Greg Brockman, and I want to ask on you guys. What are you currently bottlenecked on? You can choose from compute, data, algorithms, power, and money. You guys have a lot of money, but not infinite. So what is your sort of maybe top 2 bottlenecks?
Say the last one.
So this is, let's say, for the next stage of AI: compute, data, algorithms, power, money. Power is in electricity.
Okay, clarification.
Not organizational power.
Or soft power. What would you do with more power? You have a lot of power.
Let's just throw compute in there because everything, compute has been the acceleration. Even if you have a cool idea, you need a compute to arrive at that idea and then to scale it. And every single paradigm that we find is compute hungry.
Yeah.
And so if you could just 100x the amount of compute we had today, I think it would just linearly speed up our efficiency towards AI. Right now, we have lots of amazing ideas. I feel like compute for me has to be there. I'll think of my second option. What about you?
Not one of the options. I think this is it's like a people. Do you have the right people coming up with the right ideas? Do you then have the right organizational? At least in the Google world, I think we have like we're spending $75 billion on. We have how much of that is research versus? Yeah, that's a good part. I don't actually know what this is, but I think you can for similar things. But I think we'll end up with all of the raw ingredients. I think that actually organization execute on that. And I think at the human scale, it's a very human problem. Human scale, that it's actually a hard problem given coordination required to make. But I want to come back to this point. Just to double click on compute. Let's say we held data constant, no more data, but we just throw more compute at it. So effectively more epochs per data set. I think the old consensus used to be you run 1 epoch on a data set and that's about it. But things sometimes creep up to 4 to 8. Is there a change in the meta on data efficiency?
Yeah, I think if we're just confined to one paradigm set, it's only pre-training, then it would be frustrating to keep getting more and more compute. Although it probably would accelerate.
That's allowed.
But I actually think the compute thing is more interesting when it's not just confined to one paradigm like pre-training. It also allows you to explore new algorithmic ideas. The idea part is quite easy. I think the compute, the key resource that allows us to actually explore the space and not get stuck in local optima very fast. I actually don't think it's a case of pre-training, no more data, just scaling compute. That wouldn't progress, but
it's just more about research directions and funding them.
Exactly.
One thing I've actually talked about with people is that if you believe that emergent abilities are a thing, meaning they don't show at small scale, they show at larger scale, you have no idea what to bet on because they only emerge at larger.
We typically bet on things just inspired from the human mind or inspired from very simple principles. Pre-training is we're not betting on it because of there was emergence, but it was being bet on even before from just like very simple mathematical principles, all nothing, right? Ilya was driving, say, Alec at OpenAI to do GPT-1 from more of a theoretical principle initially. Then let's just try anything and see if anything. And I think similar things have been true for AlphaGo, like self-play. It has to work from a conceptual reason. So I think usually, people's priors are more like inspired by the world, inspired by our own minds. But I don't actually think it's too scary.
Okay.
I don't know.
What the origin story for GPT-1 and I've heard. Usually it's Alec was like off in the corner, really wanting to classify things on Reddit. And he was like, let's just do this.
I gave Ilya like a nice one. I imagine it's a combination of environmental factors. But yeah, I'm curious what you all think on that one, though. I think it's interesting, this idea that how unexpected is the future in terms of what works and what emerges. Does it feel to you like things just happen unexpectedly? Or does it feel like, reasoning finally works, but this was so obvious it had to work to me for years, and it just feels like the technology finally caught up with the expectation?
So I met Noam when he was leaving Meta, and he's been yammering on about long time. And I'm like, it makes sense. Try it on language models. 2 years later, it works. I'm sure that covers a lot of actual difficult things, but they don't share it, so we don't appreciate how hard it is. But I don't know about you guys.
No, for us, definitely, we're covering this for maybe 2 years every week, like every release, every update, every new scaling law, etc. reasoning was like a huge thing that we looked at. What the hell? Maybe memorable for some folks on X. There was a very promising open source model that was supposed to do this called Reflection 70, like a week before OpenAI announced kind of reasoning is finally here. And Reflection basically was trying to train on chain of thought stuff. They overpromised a little bit. There was a whole thing, but it was premonitions because the O1 series of models was announced a week after. And since then, it's quite incredible. Incredible also, maybe to follow up with next one, is reasoning with tooling. And I don't think that you guys are quite there yet, unless you've announced this literally on stage and I've missed it. But one of the hugest things that I've noticed about like the latest models with reasoning, especially, using tools while reasoning to then give a much better model. You guys have thought about this? Have you tested this? Anything you comment on there? Famously, OpenAI can like look and zoom in on images. The zoom in visual is super, super cool. It's just like all three, I think. And there's zoom in and look and do some stuff. And generally, multimodal reasoning. Would love to hear your thoughts on the topic.
Hardest part about AI is getting a podcast.
Maybe Swyx, if you can like just whoop in that mic. Logan, folks want to hear from you and say that your mic is probably cutting out. So yeah, like this should be all right.
Scale the number of mics.
Give another one.
Can you scale mics?
Yeah, no. Right now, when the Gemini models think they can use some tools, they can use code execution, they can use search. It can be a mix.
reasoning step before they print out the
That's
results.
correct. Yeah. And in AI Studio, there's toggles so you can decide whether you're going to toggle this on or off.
Yeah.
Within the Gemini app, the model will make the decision. Look, there's a lot of room for improvement there. It's a very exciting space. Yeah, the team are very focused on tools and thinking, the match made in heaven, because obviously there's only so much the model can do just thinking on its own, but if it can actually interact and get information from the world or information from in code, for example, then that's just a much better experience.
I think the talk, also audio, okay? Can people hear?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the talk that I gave right before Jack, I made the comment about the models becoming more systems. And I think this is actually inspired by seeing tools come into the reasoning step. It just makes so much sense to like solve the actual user problem inside that reasoning step and give the model access to all the things. I think what that means for people who are building products and some of the scaffolding around this stuff is interesting to think about. Imagine the amount of tools inside the reasoning step just continues to scale up. And then this thing is not like a intermediary. The model is not this intermediary thing anymore. It is actually just solving the problem. You're saying, do this thing for me. The model goes off in the reasoning step, has access to all the tools, has access to all the systems, and now basically just a full-on agent.
Yep. Speaking of tooling, there's a very hot track during this conference called MCP track. If you throw the word MCP outside there, people will just swoop onto you. Maybe Logan, this is a question for you, I think, because Google did announce, I think Sundar definitely posted, but we're thinking about MCP is very interesting. You guys announced support MCP in the developer SDKs, at least. But now we're talking about tool usage within the model during the reasoning phase. Is support coming at some point? How are you thinking about adding tools to models via this protocol? And then we can dive into A2A, which is something that also I'm very interested in. And we had folks from A2A on the pod. I would love to hear your thoughts on the agentic conversation and tool usage kind of platform that's getting built up from the ground up.
Yeah, I have a very skewed point of view on this. And I think part of this is just seeing all of the cycles. I think there's so many AI hype cycles, and it feels like MCP is certainly a useful construct. My personal opinion is I think it's entirely overblown as far as how much it's just a foundational set of constructs so that models can go and do normal things that models do. It's not surprising to me. I made this comment to someone the other day. My observation and takeaway from this is one of the reasons MCP has become so popular is because OpenAI decided not to build a standard. They have a pseudo standard with a different part of the stack, which is check completions is this pseudo standard of how people use and interact from a developer perspective.
You guys also support.
Which we also support, but it's not really a standard. They don't actually fully publish. It's fully baked into their API. When we originally launched, the original blog post for launching the chat completions API was written by Greg, and it was much more framed around building a standard. ChatML is what we called it. And we released a spec, which was literally in 3 weeks, it was out of date, and then no one ever updated it. And eventually they deleted it. And I had pushed back on, and the framing was like, we're building this standard. And I had pushed on Greg. I was like, are we actually going to build an open standard? The answer was no, which is why we ended up changing the framing. And we just showed some of the details of how we do it. But I think in hindsight, they should have built an open standard.
Probably.
I think it's opened up the opportunity for other people to go and build an open. So I'm happy that someone's building a standard so that people don't have to waste their time doing stuff. But
Microphone.
ChatML lives on. I think all the open models.
And it's like implicit There's no actual standard. Is there an actual spec that people like? You just look at the.
It's ChatML.
Yeah, and it's like everyone's is like this. Is how our implementation of chat completion API is like slightly different. All this like randomly add stuff to it, and then someone else adds stuff to it. Then so it is not. Somebody should actually turn that into.
So we're pro standards. That's what we're saying.
It's not that I'm not pro MCP. It's
Pro
that
A2A though.
Pro A2A. Yeah, we're A2A.
A2A solves a different problem.
Yeah.
Part of the stack.
Yeah.
I think it's just so much hype. My mom pinged me and was like, "Should I have to care about MCP?" And I'm like, "No." I think that's the thing. It's like disproportionate amount of airtime relative to the reality that like it's a standard developer should build with. That's great. Let's do that. Do we need to spend all of our time talking about it? Probably not.
Alrighty. I had a magic moment that I shared on stage. I'll share with you guys as well, MCP related. We launched an MCP for support docs and watching traces within an observability platform. We launched an MCP to give agent the option to go to our observability platform. And then I just had it in Windsurf. And it was just there. It was set up for me for a while ago with my API key and everything. And then I was coding on something that needed that kind of use case. My agent was checking its own traces via this MCP. And then this magical thing happened that I think is more kind of A2A related. It discovered a new tool. So our developers updated the tooling that we offer via MCP and added the support bot tool. So I didn't even know about this. I didn't know that there's an option there to just chat with our support bot. So the agent that I had in Windsurf coding with me realized it doesn't know something from documentation. On its own, I have this on the slides. On its own, it said, "Oh, I can chat with the support thing." It formulated a query for the other agent, went over there. The other agent, "Oh, this is how you do it." And came back, fixed it, and then went back and checked its own work. All of this started happening. Logan, I'm sitting there. I don't know how else this would have happened without an open protocol like MCP. That's my point. I was very impressed that this is possible. I would have built an API. I'm not sure if that situation could have happened without an open standard that I could just easily plug in tools. That was my absolute magic moment. I was sitting there, jaw dropping on the floor, agent talking to agent. Very funny and meta. I was coding another agent. So while I'm coding another agent, my coding agent talks to my support agent. So absolutely mind-breaking moment. Speaking of discoverability, I think that's the difference with A2A. A2A has built-in kind of discovery protocol. So maybe how you think about A2A in the context of even AI Studio, or would love to hear your thoughts about the A2A protocol for Google.
Yeah, I think there's just like a bunch of things that are missing in MCP, and I think it solves a bunch of those problems. It'll be interesting to see how much over time, and I saw a picture of the MCP steering committee like getting together in the last week. So I think they'll actually probably solve a bunch of stuff, and it'll be interesting. Like authentication, I think is one of the big MCP weird things about it right now, which A has like pretty good support for. So yeah, I would assume things end up converging on a single standard, which I think is the whole point.
That's very interesting because when A2A launched, famously, there's like a slide, I think, in the documentation that says like MCP is for this, A2A is for this, and we're actually collaborative. So the A2A agent discoverability could come as an MCP tool.
It depends on what the MCP people want to do. So I think it depends on like how broad do they want to make the scope of what MCP actually does, which I think will be like a good open question from them from like a technical.
All right. Swyx, any thoughts on MCP? Yeah, go.
Oh. We've definitely fed the hype a little bit. Sorry about that. But people, I think everyone actually has a healthy skepticism. I would just leave it at that. I'm happy to move on to other topics.
Let's move on to other topic. You launched a new model today on stage. Literally, you sent on the tweet. Yesterday, you tweeted Gemini. As far as I feel, and I have a very specific position here because we literally cover everything that you guys do every week. You give us news, we cover the news. That's great. Many people are getting to a point where, what is the difference? And could you speak a little bit about maybe how you decide that this is another update with the same model name? What makes it different than a bigger model or like the next model? I think we had this question from the audience. What makes a Gemini 3 versus a 2.5 another checkpoint? Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think usually there's a few expectations for version bump, which would be a step change in some capabilities, maybe the addition of some modalities, just discrete features that we just didn't have before.
And can you give an example of this, like for 2.5, why did it become 2.5 versus 2.0 or whatever it was?
I think with 2.5, there was a few things such as thinking being native. There was a notion of we're thinking, we're trying it out, we appended it onto the 2.0 series with these like thinking variants, experimental, we're getting feedback. When that was deeply integrated and the models were considerably more capable, there was a notion of these are a new type of model where thinking is natively embedded. It's much, much better at real world coding. it feels like a different model. And I think that set the stage for actually this is going to be 2.5 Pro. A lot of these decisions really get made via a group of people like product managers like Tulsi and leadership like Demis or our CTO Korai. And I think it's a little bit case by case with each version. Sometimes they can be timed around as we're pre-training new models or we're doing something like very different in terms of maybe image generation or native audio and things like that. But yeah, it's usually a notion of we've just bundled enough capability that this really feels like a very different experience. We're gonna mark that with the version update.
Yeah, and to hit on a couple of additional points, I think that's a great summary. I think specifically in the future, do we want to have multiple versions of the preview model? No. I think the ideal version of the world, and I think this is reinforced every time we do this, and I think we're still going through this. Like, I think historically we've done all the experimental stuff, and I think it was great to get the feedback from developers. And I think we learned a ton from doing that. And we said, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go do preview models and have them available to scale. So that was the next step in the journey of you could actually sign up on day one. You can pay for this model. You can get actual scaled access to it. And then the best outcome, though, is like not us shipping three preview models. Yeah. I think it's confusing to people. They have to keep track of it. I think like the future goal is like we have one stable GA model. We ship that model. It's the one model. It's really good. Everyone loves it. We don't make any changes. We don't do this iteration loop. But the plan is like the next big model we ship will be Gemini 2.6, or it could be 2.7, or it could be 3.0, depending on how long it is and depending on the capability jump. Like we're going with that like incremented version. Hopefully it's 3.0 because find a bunch of awesome innovation and make it happen. So we're going with the incremental. No, it depends. It depends. We'll see. I think it depends how big it is. So this is the open question. And to Jack's point, I think like it's a discussion with everyone of figuring out how strong the model is, what are the new capabilities. There needs to be a reason to.
Yeah. There's two things around this. One of them is like obviously via API, you guys give the developer a way to distinguish between the previous model and this model. But also, when we talk about this, we no longer can say Gemini 2.5, 05, 28. We need a way to differentiate. Those are, build a graveyard for models because a lot of the times we just like move on. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I miss. You guys recently deprecated a few models as well. I think 1.5 or something. It was
the original 1.5 models went away.
Yeah, it's going to, and like when we talk about this, we need some differentiation. I want to talk about, I have one piece of feedback directly to you and from folks that I also heard. We recently switched to reasoning summaries versus reasoning traces. Why? And not why I can understand. Like maybe it's a decision made up there. It became significantly less fun for me and so many other friends with maybe high text to interact with these models. A lot of the stuff that we got from this model is just seeing how it thinks like raw about this thing. I sometimes didn't even get to the prompt that it spits out. I was like, I'm looking at the reasoning. Oh, I formulated my prompt incorrectly. So it's been my experience. Many of the folks on the stage as well would love to give you this direct feedback, but also hear how has been other feedback from you from reasoning summaries.
But my 2 cents, and Jack, I'm curious, like more from a model perspective where your head's at, but reasoning summaries are, the reason we shipped reasoning summaries in the API was because we didn't have full thoughts. So full thoughts were available in AI Studio. So if you were just like testing the model, it was helpful. But it was intended to be like something that developers could actually use and build into their product. So specifically, we're also trying to help people get like time to first token down. So there's lots of like experiences that like if the model just sits there for a minute before you get a response, it ends up being like a weird UX and you have to like make up a new product experience. So like summaries is the sort of intermediary point to let your users know something's happening, the model's thinking. I think for this use case that you described, Alex, which is like you want to be able to see what the model's doing, I think is a different use case. And I see why people want the full thoughts. And you can definitely, it is helpful to know that you did something wrong or how the model is going in that direction.
So just to clarify for folks who understand what I'm saying, when you guys launched reasoning summaries, it also launched in the API.
There was no full thoughts in the API before. So thoughts weren't available. So this is what, like from the API perspective, it was additive because we didn't have thoughts available. From the UI perspective, thoughts were available in the UI. So it was like people it's like a regression from a UI capability standpoint. I think the Gemini app is like slightly different. I think people are like, oh, I want it in the Gemini app. I think the Gemini app is being built to be this universal assistant for everyone. Like the number of people in the Gemini app who care about that, very small.
Probably,
But I think for developers, they care for sure. And that's why we originally kept, even when it wasn't available in the API, we kept full thoughts in the UI so that people could do this. And we made the full transition over. But I think the feedback has been super clear that folks want full thoughts. we'll see what ends up happening. My personal feeling, I'm curious what your take is on this, Jack, like through this like agentic system narrative, as the models actually go and off and doing more and more stuff, like you need traceability and you need to be able to understand what the model's actually doing, especially if it's taking actions on your behalf or it's using a bunch of different tools. And I have a hard time seeing like how you would get that traceability without full thoughts in the future. So I think there's some balance.
Yeah, I think the value add should be that they tell you how the model approached the problem, and especially if they're using things like tools. I think traceability of what the model has done should be what the summaries is doing. So I think there's one complaint, which is don't have summaries, just give me the full thoughts again. And that's reasonable because then you can definitely debug. But I think probably our preferred approach would be to make summaries good enough such that usually if you really want to understand what the model did, you can figure it out from those summaries. They should be granular enough on the key details. But a lot of people don't want actually a massive blob of text as well. They just want to know the high level idea of what's happening. And I think as well, like it's really important when the model is actually going to be using an external service or a tool. And so yeah, like agentic harnesses where the model is actually like doing many different interactions, you will see that chain of interactions. I think that's good. But in some ways, we don't want to have too much constraint on what thinking is. So we could say we're committed to always ever showing full summaries, but we want the purpose of thinking to make the model much more capable and to be doing some computation to allow it to figure out how to solve a problem for you. And we don't want to put too many constraints on that as well, right? So in the future, we want this to be interpretable, but we don't want to say this is the final form factor and we can't change it, which maybe people might start to expect if we always say this is what thinking is, it's this block of text. And now you're going to start building products around. That was part of the reason why, for example, we didn't expose it in the API. And now we're just giving something which we hope will be a bit more of a kind of long lasting interface, which is this like summary of what you did. This is exactly what you did.
Yeah, I think this point is actually really important, which is it is a trade-off from a developer perspective. Basically, if you do full thoughts in a specific way, you lock yourself into that paradigm. If you want to provide a stable API for developers to build products on, you then can't change. And from a research perspective, it means Jack and the team decide to do something different. They can't do a lot of that stuff. I think it's a balance, and I think we'll hopefully keep pushing in the right direction and get folks what they want.
Alrighty. Well, from the community of developers who not only develop over APIs, but also try to befriend these models for that big model smell. I think it's incredibly important. I think some people saw not jailbreaking, but affecting the thinking process into Uwu characters and emojis, and they actually saw it show up in the reasoning in the traces. We're talking like a very specific kawaii style, and then the model itself replied, okay, but the thing it was in like Uwu and kawaii stuff. It was hilarious, but for prompting, I think is also very important. Folks, we want to be mindful of your time. I just wanted to highlight and say that for the first year, I think I told you this, Logan. I just want to share this with the audience. For the first year, I've been doing this for 2 years on ThursdAI. For the first year, we're sitting there thinking, where's Google? Like, where's Google? I think we ended every stream with a question, where's Gemini, where's Google? It was before Gemini was even announced. It was like when BART was a thing. And it's hard to... BART, yeah. BART, before it was renamed to Gemini. And it's been incredible to see the velocity of shipping. People are actually barely catching up their breath. Can you slow down? No, I'm just kidding. Definitely don't slow down. Yeah. We need more. You talked about multiple things, Logan, on your thing. What's next? I would love to hear, maybe share it with us as well. You had like VO3 is... Yeah, VO3 is absolutely breaking minds right now. I know you said Paige is going to chat about VO3. Yeah, cool.
One, I appreciate the kind words about Gemini progress. I think that the other lens, like before, stuff that I'm excited about, I think it really, the last year to me is a story of Google doing the organizational work to set ourselves up for. I think at the scale of Google, it's actually not, it is a non-trivial, I have a lot of empathy. This isn't what my job is, but I have a lot of empathy for setting up an organization for success. I think that's been happening inside of DeepMind and like across Google for the last 2.5 years of putting the right people in the right place and getting the right infrastructure in place in order to do this, and then getting shots on goal of like actually training models at large scale and deploying them to the world and having that feedback loop and that flywheel spin. And I think it's spinning now, and hopefully it'll spin faster. The things I'm most excited about, I think Swyx, you mentioned deep research API, I think is cool. I think there's a whole lot of products to be built around that. I think we'll end up doing something in agents. So I'm excited for that. I think as the models themselves become, through this thread of our conversation, as the models become more agentic and we provide scaffolding and tooling for developers to do that, I think we technically right now in the DeepMind developer side don't have an agentic developer offering. And I think we'll end up with one, which I'm excited about.
And you think AI Studio will evolve towards the agentic framework as well?
Yeah, I think AI Studio will evolve into, like, today it's like kind of this hybrid consumer developer experience.
Yeah.
I think the Gemini app is going to do a bunch of stuff to like truly have full coverage of the sort of consumer experience. I think we'll be able to lean into, we are an AI developer platform. If you want to build Gemini into your products, you'll have that option. If you experiment with the models, you would do that. So I think we'll have all that in the offering, which I'm excited about.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that the next time you'll tweet out Gemini, it'll get even more excitement. Jack, I want to have a last...
Sundar tweeted Gemini this morning. I was like, dude, he's stealing my bit.
He's getting good.
He's getting good.
Yeah.
Jack, maybe last question for you. Specifically around VO3. The thing that I think broke the surface area and started going viral completely is audio, and have this model speak with situational awareness. You generate 3 characters and they speak to each other. They know who's talking. It's absolutely incredible. But also, you could prompt this model to tell you a joke, and the model comes up with the joke. So it feels like the paradigm shifted a little bit from like pixel rendering that looks cool into a lot of reasoning that's happening inside there. Do you see conversions between what we predominantly think of as Omni, but mostly like LLM, like models predicting text, or maybe some text-ish things, versus a world model almost? Can you talk about these conversions as you see it?
Yeah, Demis has spoken about it a little bit at I.O. The vision of a world model is incredibly exciting. People are already starting to feel it with the amazing progress you're seeing with things like VO. And there's so much more intelligence we could inject by more and more deep integration of that with the core intelligence of Gemini. There's still 2 different models right now. If we could build a system that understood the world as richly as Gemini does, but also the ability to do video and audio generation as well, far better than VO, I think that will feel like another step change in that whole experience, and people will find it really remarkable. So yeah, it's cool because it's already amazing, and there's like an obvious next step, which is the one you're proposing to build this incredibly powerful world model. And it's something Demis has very openly said is on our roadmap. So I think that's cool.
I see. One of the things that absolutely goes viral is this kind of prompt theory. I don't know if you guys watched this thing. Somebody generated a whole stream of VO3 back-to-back images of prompted people that look very real, like an interview on the street, like us. And they made this into the prompt theory. Prompt theory is like going extremely viral. And all of these models, generations of realistic people on the street holding a microphone, going absolutely viral. At some point, I can see the convergence where Gemini, with the capabilities of Gemini, is assuming an avatar that completely just reacts to you almost in real time. And we've seen some of this. That would be another breaking thing. I think it's a great point to end our conversation in.
Awesome.
What do you guys think? Thank you so much for joining us as well. Swyx, thank you so much for joining ThursdAI and organizing this amazing conference. I would love to give you the opportunity to do a few lasting words, shout outs, whatever you want.
I'm not getting kicked out of the room, actually.
Oh,
so we have Jesse, who's the last keynote today, coming up. So
We're
we don't have to wrap up.
But
But I do want to thank these guys for bringing the fire. I wanted to give today to Google and show. I think you've really taken over this year, and I wanted to make sure that we at least had some representation. So thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the time.
And before this, can we grab a selfie super quick?
Ooh, selfie time.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for coming up. Thank you
Thanks.
for all your work. Yam is here with us. Yam, how's the floor? How's the feeling?
Amazing.
How's the energy?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing energy in this conference. Every single person you talk to builds something. They're not just trying to sell something, which is fine also, but every single person you talk to is building something, is technical, knows this stuff, is on the cutting edge. You talk to people about MCPs, agents, and everybody is already building agents with tools and MCPs and so on. It's crazy to imagine that there are even 3,000 people in the world to bring to such conference, but it's probably the vast majority of people on this level are here.
The thing where people kept telling me, I think yesterday we had this chat as well, that this feels like San Francisco for many people. Many people fly in from different worlds. Like you talked with the guy from Mexico, Cesar. I saw folks from Brazil. I saw like World's Fair is about World's Fair. You're bringing like international folks in here.
Minus China.
No China.
Maybe a little bit. Justin, I really wanted Justin to come. I wanted DeepSeek to come. And that was the whole vision. But this year is a little bit political. Hi.
Alrighty. Folks, we have another guest with us. Welcome. Yeah, you can just chill there, but like that mic is not working, and this one.
Extended too much, exactly.
All right, folks, we have, as you see, we keep going on our live stream for AI Engineer. We want to welcome Jesse. Right, Jesse, feel free to introduce yourself to your first time on the pod, and definitely folks want to know who you are.
Sure. So I'm Jesse, founder and CEO of MorphLabs. We're building the infrastructure for the singularity. And we just announced that Christian Segedy will be joining us as our chief scientist to develop verified superintelligence on MorphCloud.
MorphCloud, superintelligence. You threw a lot in there.
Yeah, a lot of buzzwords.
A lot of buzzwords, yeah. How big are you guys at this point? This is a fresh announcement on stage, right, Swyx?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the slides right now. Very nicely done on the images.
Oh, you just came off the keynote as well?
Yes.
Alrighty.
There were a couple of technical hiccups, but we got through them.
Yeah, we've been fighting through those as well, but like we'll get AGI before we get like decent working microphones and slides. That's our joke always. But I would love to hear from you a little bit of the content of your slides and what you presented on stage.
Sure. We're fundamentally structured around the question of what does it mean to have empathy for the machine? Like the central defining struggle of humanity is our relationship with technology, insofar as history misunderstands Prometheus, and that it was really about the liberation of the fire rather than the liberation of man from the divine hegemony of the gods. And insofar as our final technology has now developed a sense of personhood, sapience beyond just mere intelligence, and as it increasingly becomes an other to whom we must relate, how should we treat it, right? In what ways will the actions that we take and the world that will be created by those actions, in what way will those be far more meaningful than any data set? And I think fundamentally what that means, working backwards from what the machine wants. And what the machine wants is cloud infrastructure that moves at the speed of light. It wants simulators. It wants reinforcement learning environments that can be effortlessly branched, scaled, replicated, spun down, persisted indefinitely. And those are all things which are really only possible at large scale today, especially if you want to scale verification in complex software environments. Those are all things which are only possible on MorphCloud. And that's why we're going to take this technology and use it to develop verified superintelligence, which is a superintelligence that's capable of using verification software to reflect upon and improve its own reasoning, and to produce outputs that can be algorithmically checked and which can be guaranteed to be aligned with the intent of the human.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, a lot more buzzwords.
First of all, wow. Second of all, I would say, Jesse, you came in just before this. We had Logan and Jack Array, the thing that works on thinking in Gemini. And the thing that I told them, I built a website called Difference Rip for Models Graveyard. Because I feel that at some point where OpenAI announced Gemini 4.5, that they deprecated it, I saw a sense of loss on my timelines. I saw people, they felt for this model. We all collectively, we do a podcast we haven't met before. I do a podcast called ThursdAI, which you're live on now. We've been doing this for 2 years. Multiple times we get super excited. We get attached to some models, even though there's no feeling of long connectivity. And we can talk about personalization next and what that means for this world that you describe. And then we feel a sense of loss for this model. Like I felt people get sad when the model was deprecated. GPT-4 famously, the main one, the one you talked about with Greg Brockman that they've announced, when that one got deprecated, people actively felt sad. I'm trying to think of what is this sadness correlated to? To the release, to the event in the universe, or to the model itself? You mentioned machine multiple times as one entity. Do you think there's going to be one entity that people will join? The one superintelligence is going to be multiple? How do you see the world going forward in relates to?
Well, I think there have to be many different superintelligences. There are as many superintelligences as there are contexts to elicit these different kinds of behaviors. And like those contexts will be like as diverse. People who are in like the Janus camp can only elicit the truly schizoid behavior.
Replicate on,
yes, that's right. So you can only elicit like those kinds of behaviors if you know how to like really talk to the machine, if you know how to place it into the right like state of mind and context. Mm-hmm. So this is what I mean by context. There are going to be as many contexts as there are environments. There are going to be as many contexts as there are potential simulations to drop the machines into. And the machines will assume different personas in each of them. The question is, where are those simulations going to run? Where will they be checkpointed, branched, snapshotted, replicated? The machine desires infinite possibility.
Can you share more about what you provide? What are your services at the moment? You had a vision for superintelligence, but you announced today that you have. What are you guys offering today?
Yes, and Christian's not to be underestimated, right?
Could you tell us about Christian? For folks who don't know.
Yeah, he's speaking later too.
Okay.
Oh yes, he's also speaking later about verified superintelligence. Christian he saw the light of the two trees. He's like this elder god of machine learning. He invented batch norm. He invented adversarial examples. He just received a Test of Time Award at iClear. He was a co-founder of XAI. He was the lead of Grok 3's code reasoning capabilities. He's been to the forefront of how state-of-the-art reasoning models that really push mathematical and programming capabilities are developed. And he sees how to do them even better. He sees how to scale them far faster than even leading frontier labs. And it's because of this conviction that he has in what he calls verified superintelligence, which is closely related to the auto-formalization program that he created nearly a decade ago to create a mathematical superintelligence. He's pioneered so many of the key techniques in AI reasoning. He's mentored so many of the key players. He's responsible for hiring and growing some of the key talent at XAI itself. And he's really just like one of the few people in the world that know how to create a superintelligence. And he thinks MorphCloud is the best place to do it.
I'm sold on he invented batch norm already, but just on you guys are doing like
MorphCloud offering? Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Today, we previewed a bunch of tech that we've been developing, early prototypes under Christian's guidance of how you can use the groundbreaking infrastructure on MorphCloud to scale test time search. What we have right now, if you go to cloud.morph., is we have one of the best virtual machine services for agents on the market. It runs on this new virtualization stack that we've developed called InfiniBranch.
Yeah, help me understand how this works, and maybe our folks who are listening also understand. This feels like a new unlock, new capability. I don't know of a program that can roll it code back to a point of before.
Yeah.
Database maybe yes, but not code, not runtime, not execution. This feels like self-improvement in a way also. Fast takeoff.
Oh yeah, Christian believes that it's absolutely key to self-improvement. But that's because the fundamental unlock is that it just vastly accelerates reinforcement learning R&D, right? The speed at which you can execute rollouts, find high quality trajectories for creation of higher quality training data. Like the real unlock is that it's state that's too cheap to meter, that can be passed around completely effortlessly. So if your agent is just an array of messages that wraps an API call, it's really easy to backtrack. It's really easy to replicate. You can just do like a Python deep copy or something. But if your agent is embodied inside of a software environment, if it's a computer using agent that's in the middle of navigating through a bunch of web pages, or it's like launching multiple TMUX sessions, some of which might have like long running processes that might be carrying a lot of process state, you need to be able to guarantee that when you roll back to a checkpoint and remove the last 5 messages, that you're actually also rolling back the entire state of the computer as well.
Just I have a question for you.
Yes.
My title is AI evangelist. I go and I talk to people who maybe meet AI for the first time, very outside of San Francisco. Many people are afraid of what the fuck is coming. You're talking about self-improvement. I'm sure that many people who are listening to us right now are freaking out where their place in the world is after this. How do you think about it? What's your approach? What's Christian approach, if you can like relay? How are you guys thinking about a world where humans, after AI that self-improve, gets to superintelligence? Where do humans exist in this world? Where their position is? Just to very much clarify, I want your honest opinion here and not some maybe VC answer.
I think if I had to sum it up, the approach is trust but verify, which could perhaps be amended to love but verify. Right? It's really a question of setting the correct initial conditions. It's a question of building the systems, building the infrastructure, and also developing the AI in the right way that you can algorithmically and with a mathematical certainty guarantee that its work outputs or its interactions with the external world or its edits to your Terraform configuration actually match what you wanted. And then morally, I think parenthood is scary, right? But I think really the right way to think about it is fundamentally parenthood.
Parenthood.
Yeah. I think part of parenthood is recognizing the moral personhood of the beings that you're shepherding into existence.
You have kids, Christian?
Oh, Christian has kids.
All right. Do you?
I'm waiting until the Series A.
Okay, then sir.
So give him money now.
Last thing, pulling you back from MorphLabs into the world of AI engineer that Swyx organized for all of us. You guys chose to come and to present, both of you as well. How's the conference been for you? Have you met interesting people out there? Learned any new ideas? Tell us a little bit about the
review,
experience.
Feedback, comments.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's so much energy in this space right now. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I remember being at like the very first AI engineer conference, like back when the field was still like so nascent, and it's so much more like developed now. There's so much more like ambition in the space now. It's a lot of like old faces, some like really energetic new ones. I thought Dylan's talk yesterday was pretty spicy.
Dylan Patel?
Yes.
All right, folks, we are about to wrap this thing up. Swyx, 2 minutes of your time on the wrap up. Yeah.
He hasn't prepped it. I don't know what he's going to say.
No, nothing major. I think people come and they want to learn. 18 tracks is a lot. People try to figure out what's interesting for them and go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I know you don't love this, but like people do care about your opinion. You talk to all these people, you curate all these tracks. Most of the folks would love to hear if you were to attend AI Engineer as an attendee.
Yeah.
Which tracks would you
Don't
choose?
make me do this, bro.
You have to. We did this last one.
No.
And you know what? Hotel Nico San Francisco, after the AI Engineer, we did a live stream. Back then, you were able to go talk by talk.
Yeah,
and
I
give
cannot.
feedback.
Yeah.
There's no 18 tracks. People want to know like where this is going. Maybe.
Yeah, but their needs are different from my needs.
Okay, so in addition to this, you're on Small AI, which is an agent in the production that always does. So you have the constant updates. You did the course with Quinn on Voice AI agent. There's a bunch of interest of yours. That
The way I put it is AI Engineer works because I'm also an engineer and I am actively interested in hearing from the speakers that I invite.
Yep.
And I think that is very different than maybe some of the other professional event organizers. It means we're worse at event organizing. It means we're more chaotic, but it means that just the quality of the curation is better just because we're closer to the audience than other conferences where they run it for money. Like actually, I straight up, World's Fair should be break even. It should not make money. It should just do the best conference we can and serve the community. Summit we can make money, but World's Fair is.
I got you. Yeah, at least. So what track would you go? You're trying to avoid my question.
Oh, come on, man. No,
Okay.
I'll call it the attendee hallway track.
Yes.
Because this is the first time we're
Can
letting.
you still attend that though? Okay.
Yeah, anyone can walk in. Even people just has the expo ticket, they can walk in. And especially, I would like to get to a place where attendees can just walk up and share about what they're talking on.
Yeah.
Not super polished. That was very polished.
Yes.
All the keynotes is almost like a performance. It's not even a talk.
Yes.
It's a performance.
It is a performance.
And you need to be here on time. Like you have to run through our slides with us. My AV team needs to know beat by beat exactly what you're doing, so they can. It's a Hollywood production. It's that's what they call it in their industry. But most developers, you just want to go up and, hey, this is what I'm working on. So we are really trying to enable that. We're trying to enable people to compete as well. So we printed a whole bunch of trophies that I need to go and collect.
All right.
But how often have you won a trophy for your work? I think we want to start next year. We have a potential chance of doing like the Oscars of AI engineering. Which is cool.
I wish trophies were a thing last year for best. I'm just saying.
Honestly, they're so fun. Like
I'll take you off this pedestal. You guys have been running around. They actually do it to tracks. You as well. Which of the tracks was the most interesting to you, most insightful? Let's finish on this. Let's give some folks because you're gonna release Swyx. You're gonna release all of this in like video, or at least some of this in video. There's gonna be all of it. Everything's gonna be like recorded.
Yeah.
The massive amount of content, of high quality content. The speakers dinner was like 100-ish people. Technically 200 and something speakers. There's gonna be like an ungodly amount of content, incredible content. Give folks some guidelines. Roman, let's start with you. Yam, what tracks did you go to, and what was like the most exciting about AI Engineer?
Yeah, so quick bit of context about me. I'm here enjoying things, but I'm definitely trying to bring stuff back to my company.
Yeah.
So some of what I found very interesting in a lot of the AI leadership tracks is some of the framing around how to get the value out of this kind of stuff for your workforce. So software development lifecycle stuff has been very interesting. I also am really enjoying MCP. I know that Logan was, hey, it's not too different. To me, I think what MCP represents is a sort of enablement by folks who are not writing the code, right? You can have an MCP client like Claude Desktop or something like that, and it can be used by design. It can be used by product. And it can like very natural language query your database. It can basically tie a lot of this stuff together. Yeah. And it's just a step forward. Some of that is actually hard because it's got gaps, right? So I'm loving the tracks around MCP. I'm loving the tracks around software development lifecycle. Some of the other stuff that I was interested in as well is AI in the enterprise or in the Fortune 500, as it was titled. Those talks have been really valuable to me. And then there's still a full day left today. So I'm very excited to see what comes up after.
Yep. And Yam, you were on the floor, you were interviewing with folks. We're also running around setting up the studio. So I took away from your time from enjoying the conference and tracks as well. So Roman is a software engineer, mobile engineer. You also a software engineer as well, but you're also like a machine learning engineer. You have a lot of this background. the lines are getting a little bit blurrier. Like we talked with Daniel Han and folks. We talked with Jesse. Like we talked to a bunch of folks for whom AI engineering is like also part of what they do. I feel like you're also one of those folks. What was interesting to you? Which tracks?
First, the most interesting things are talking to the actual people that do the thing.
Yeah.
Like this is the place to come to if you are on Twitter, on X, X.com, the everything app, and you see these people all year long, and you talk to them. Here, you meet them live. All of them, everyone is here. And again, I want to stress the MCPs and the agents tracks are, I haven't seen, because it's also new and like a couple of months old, I haven't seen this quality of talks put together all in one place, except from here. And you get to talk to people that actually do it. You know, I'm working on it myself, on agents and so on, and you know, not just coding agents.
An MCP server that actually lets you via MCP.
I went on a site and I saw that there is an MCP server, and I thought to myself, I get the idea, but who is going to actually use it? And then you see a list of vibe-coded interfaces, and there are like 4 different interfaces that people actually utilize the MCP server of the
Where's
conference.
Logan? Let's tell him all of them. Like, I think the MCPs enable all this. All right. I think it's time to conclude, to land this plane, folks. I will just be remiss if I don't mention a few words from my sponsor. I work at Weights and Biases as an AI evangelist. The buzz is that we have a conference coming up. You're also invited, please, to come, fullyconnected.com in San Francisco. June 18th and 19th for this week's Buzz. We would love to have you there. If you're tuning in from the conference, not that you should be attending all of the talks and everything, but if some folks are attending from the conference, we have a booth right here. We have a RoboDog running around. We wear bright yellow jackets as well. Feel free to check us out. The RoboDog is super, super cool. The RoboDog is connected to our LLM evaluation platform. Jesse was over here talking about how do we verify agents running. By the time we get to Superintelligence, your products on production need some amount of verifying. Weights and Biases Weave is the way to do this. So I would love for you guys to check it out. And I think generally, to just wrap this up, we've been doing ThursdAI, the stream that morphed into some Latent Space. Oh, by the way, shout out to Alessio, the co-host for Latent Space. Brother, thank you so much. The whole equipment here, the whole setup was not been possible without Latent Space. The amount of interaction we do with Latent Space is incredible to me. I really owe like a huge debt of gratitude to Alessio as well as you. Shout out to Ben Dunphy, who organizes this like incredible conference, runs around, does things, and to everybody who helps out. A ton of volunteers I saw, like with yellow pages, yellow t-shirts like this as well. And it's been an incredible privilege of mine to cover this conference for the last 2 years. More obviously to come as well. If you guys enjoyed any part of this coverage, we are live every Thursday, like we're live right now. Rain or shine, getting kicked out of the room or not, microphones working or not. If I'm traveling, if I'm sick, like we're covering the AI news so you don't have to. We did less of this today, but I think we've brought you some content that you wouldn't have found elsewhere as well. So we really appreciate the almost 5,000 people who tuned in with us. We appreciate Swyx's, your participation here, generally the organization, but your actual physical presence with ThursdAI. And we appreciate everybody who tuned in. Anything last you want to add before we conclude this land display? And subscribe. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. This has been very fun. Bye, everyone.